Number 32, Greg Huff. Safeties, number 21, Rico Hiram. Number 24, Chad Peters. And number 25, Eric Westland. Starting on offense for Johnstown, at centers at tailback. Teal's kick taken by Kotzemeyer. Ball returned to the 34-yard line. Hayes on the carry. Roberts on the tackle for London. On the carry. Westland on the initial hit for London. Hayes on the carry. On the carry. First. Hayes on the carry. Tackle by Dolby 2. Deep for Johnstown. Kotzemeyer on the return for Johnstown. Hayes on the carry. Tackled by number 44, Sims. On the carry, tackled by Brooks. King on the carry, tackled by Meade and Pierce. On the carry. Tackled by Huff for London. Weeks pass complete to Hayes. Initial hit by Roberts. assisted by Short. King on the carry. Johnson on the carry. On the return. Summers on the carry. On the carry, tackle by Sims. Weeks on the carry for Johnstown. King and Jones deep. On the carry. Pierce and Jackson. Roby. King on the carry, tackle by Kevin Ferris. On the carry, tackle by Summers and Mead. On the carry, tackle by Brooks. Keith Swick. King on the carry for the score. Along with a stamped self-addressed envelope to 11189 Jug Street in Johnstown. Please make checks payable to the Johnstown Mothers Club. Tickets must be purchased before November the 13th. Roast pork, roast beef, potatoes, green beans, and desserts. Anyone interested? Please see a Mothers Club member. Thank you. Builders in Johnstown. See Don Piper for any needs or improvements on the home. Formerly Maple Grove Dairy. Summers on the carry. On the carry, tackled by Chad Peters. Summers on the carry. On the play is recovered by London. King on the recovery. Johnson's pass. Johnson's pass, intended for King, incomplete as the quarter comes to an end. Jones on the return, Hayes on the tackle for Johnstown. Once again, on the autograph football sponsored by Piper Builders, ticket number 189549. 189549. That ball can be claimed in the press box. King on the 70-yard carry for the touchdown. The 50-50 drawing, the money can be claimed in the press box right now. Ticket number 2855204. Floria's extra. Steele's kick. Fumble on the play is recovered by King on the kick.
Ran all over.
King on the carry for the school. Flag on the play. Johnson's pass complete to Jones for the score. On the carry. Hayes on the carry. Tackle by Aaron Roberts. to Jones. Johnson. King on the carry. Tackle by Goodman. Johnson on the carry, tackle by Kotzemeyer. Second down. On the carry. Tackle by Schmidt and Goodman. Johnson on the Roberts on the carry. Carry for the score. Floria's extra point attempt is good. Kick to Summers. Johnny. On the carry, tackle by Huff. the official and Johnstown on the carry, tackle. King on the carry. Tackled by Goodman as the third quarter comes to an end. King on the carry, tackled by Goodman, assisted by Summers. Tim Wright to the press box. Touchdown, King. Pass intended. Summers on the carry. Music on the carry. Summers on the carry. Music on the carry. Tackled by Collins and Nagy. Music on the carry. Tackled by Nagy. Summers on the carry. Summers on the carry for Johnstown. Hayes on the carry. Tackle by Whitlow. Brooks on the carry at Ridgedale. Hayes on the carry for Johnstown. Will benefit the athletic boosters and in turn our athletes. Touchdown, Summers!
football fans, I'm Dale McNeil with head coach Dave Daubenmire. Welcome to the London High School Red Raider Review. We have for you this evening several of the London Red Raider varsity football players, but first I want to talk with Coach Daubenmire about that excellent victory this past week. Coach, 58-15. I haven't heard many scores like that from London recently.
No, it's been a while, Dale, I think, since we've beaten somebody like that. But in all honesty, you know, Johnstown was not a very good football team. And I guess last week during our show, I tried to make that point that we felt that it was important for us to play football Friday night to get better rather than to be so concerned about our opponent. Because Johnstown, they've got a new football coach over there, and they were decimated by graduation last year. And just don't have a whole lot of kids in the program. And, of course, we think our program is certainly on the upswing. And going into that football game, we just knew that they certainly were outmanned. One thing, the risk you always run in a situation like that, though, Dale, is how do you keep the kids from being a little bit overconfident? And I really think at the beginning of that football game, even though we really guarded against that, kids read the papers too, and it was really, really difficult to get them focused on what they were supposed to do. And Johnstown came out the first time they had the ball and threw the ball down the field on us. Actually, they scored on, I believe it was a 39-yard run by their halfback, Travis Summers, but we missed about 5 or 6 tackles on one play, and it just was evident to us right then that we really weren't in the game. We were lucky that we grabbed the momentum right back, because on the ensuing kickoff, Dwight Jones returned to kickoff 94 yards, and I'm not so positive, but that might be a London High School record, 94 yards. Mike Wilson likes to say that he had the old record of 86, and we really don't have anything to verify that. I'm going to try to check on that and see. But when Dwight returned that kickoff, it really swung the momentum back towards us, and we started to play some pretty solid defense from that point on. Carl King had an excellent game for us as a running back. He rushed for 19 times for 331 yards, 6 touchdowns. It's about 17, 18 yards per carry, which is absolutely unbelievable. And we just knew that going into the game that Carl was going to be the fastest guy out on the football field. And the guys up front and Aaron Roberts blocking fullback, man, they did a great job of getting Carl into the secondary. I really think it was the first game all year that Carl was healthy. And he sure showed what he can do when he has the ability to be able to cut. I really would be remiss, Dale, if I didn't mention how much I think some of the kids on the football team sacrificed. I know Johnny Johnson and Dwight Jones in particular, we could have thrown the ball a lot more, maybe run up some passing stats. We could have handed the ball to our fullback more, but Carl was just in one of those games that I really felt that was going to be a career night for him, and I think our offensive line and our offensive football team really pulled around him to help him to get that. And, you know, it was really funny because at the end of the third quarter, our statistician came up to me and told me he had 271 yards. And I had to make a decision as to whether or not he could go for 300. And I stood over there on the sidelines and watched, as we put our second team in to begin the fourth quarter, watched Johnstown just kind of methodically drive the ball down the field. And it was gradually chewing time off the clock. And I didn't want it to appear that we were running the score up. And I'm thinking, man, it's getting down to the 6-minute mark. I can't put those guys back out there. It just wouldn't be fair. But we finally held them at the 6-minute mark. And I said, okay. And I told those guys, you guys are going to go in for one play. And I was hoping that maybe Carl would be able to knock off a 30-yard run or something, get him out of there. And he made his best run of the night, Dale, when he ran a sweep. And he cut back a couple times, broke a few tackles, went 68 yards to get him up to 331. It was really a unique situation because actually after he got his 30 yards, I was hoping he wouldn't score because I didn't want people to think that we were running the score up at that point. But it was a great effort. You know, you get in a game like that, you really feel bad about whether or not you're running the score up or not. You know, here's a guy and here's a football team. They've practiced all year to try to accomplish some things, and you hate to pull somebody out of the game just because the score gets to be what it is. But again, I've been on the other side of it. You know, I've been beat 62-2 in my days and 58-8, and I know what it's like to stay on the other sidelines. But I talked to Coach Stats, who's the football coach at Johnstown. He understood. I said I was going to put Carl in one more play, and we were going to get him out, and he just happened to turn it a 68-yard run. So we were pleased from the standpoint that we continued to improve. I think we played a second and third quarter pretty good football. And, of course, we had the big game with Jonathan Alder this week, and who knows what kind of football on down the road. And we knew that in order to beat Jonathan Alder, we were going to have to get better last week. I think we did.
I think that in the community, there was a sense that, well, no one thought that London was going to lay down or expect to just beat Johnstown. But they could have very well been a spoiler for the season, and we're just glad that that didn't happen.
Well, we're glad it didn't happen too. And I think again, we try to impress upon the kids all the time that what they've done up to this point is meaningless. That there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and we got to quit reading our press clippings and just continue to play. I was tickled that late in the game, we got the ball on the 1 yard line coming out with our number 2, number 3 offensive team on the field, and we took it 99 yards. Actually, it was 78 of it was on a big run by Mike Cogdell off of an option by Jason Artis. But it's really encouraging to be able to put those young kids out there and see them perform as well as they did. And something maybe that's really overshadowed a little bit is our JV team went up to play St. Paris Graham in a non-league JV game Saturday. And we went up there, and St. Paris Graham was 7-0, and our JVs, of course, were 7-0, and we beat them 24-14, which is what was a really good football team. So, and we're so encouraged about not only the way our varsity kids are playing, but the way, as we've talked before, the way we're beginning to play all the way down through.
Okay, I'm glad that you mentioned about the JV. Maybe sometime we'll have a chance this season to get a couple of the players on. A couple of them that I'm thinking about, Jason Artis, John Wilson. I understand he's a young sophomore.
Yeah, we have a great sophomore class. Those kids last year as freshmen lost only the last game of the season. Really, it was kind of one of those fluky things against Greenfield McLean. But other than that, they'd have been undefeated last year. And of course, not losing again this year, they understand what it takes to be winners, and we're really excited about that group.
Okay. Well, fans, we've come to the time now where we want to talk with several of the ball players that we have here this evening. And what we're going to do, instead of Coach Daubenmeier introducing them this evening, we're going to let them introduce themselves. And we're going to start at the far end over here. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Adam Noble.
Adam, you got to hang on just a minute, buddy. You got to let's get the camera zoomed in on you now.
Adam Noble, number 65, senior, play offensive center.
Guy beside him?
Cliff Williams, number 56, junior, offensive tackle, defensive end.
Carl King, number 34, offensive tailback, defensive outside linebacker.
I'm Aaron Roberts, number 45, junior, fullback, linebacker.
Coach, I like their haircuts. I think they're great.
Yeah, we talked about that last week, how they all decided to do that, except Cliff. He didn't really get in the haircut mode yet, but they're all very unified in what we're trying to do, and it's really exciting for us as a program to see our kids bond together like that.
Okay, are all of you seniors? Okay, so we have two juniors, sophomores?
Two juniors.
Okay, and that's Cliff and Aaron?
Aaron, juniors.
Okay, all right. And Coach, let's start to talk with Adam.
Okay.
Adam Noble first a little bit.
Adam Noble,
Run down about it.
Adam's really, he started all 10 games for us last year as a junior, the offensive center. Really was kind of a surprise to us because we didn't know whether Adam was really figuring in our picture last year, but he worked real hard during the summer, worked hard during two-a-days, and basically won the starting job at center. And then we really challenged him this year coming back, Dale, about not to rest on his laurels, but he needs to get better. And I think that Adam is kind of one of those unsung guys that we take for granted. You know, he gets the ball, he gets the snap up every play. We don't even have to think about it. Gets the snap up there. Several times this year he's had a good nose man over the top of him, and he's played really well for us this year. I think as I look back on this past season and last year's season, you're probably one of the most improved football players we have on our football team. I'm wondering if maybe there's some things, anything that you could attribute your improvement to.
Working in the weight room. I ran track in the spring, got better than speed for the season. During the winter and the summer, I was up in the weight room, getting stronger. So those 2 things. So.
You know, Adam, as I look back again, your junior year, it was not real easy to get you into the weight room, and not just you. A lot of guys didn't want to go up there and pay that price. I'm just kind of wondering what kind of advice that you would have, or maybe how could we convince some of these young kids of the importance of being in the weight room?
Just gotta get up and just get the point across. You gotta get up there if you want to be state champions. You gotta work at it, and that's getting in the weight room and running track or whatever needs to be done. Running your own time. Go home, do some homework, and go out and run. About 8:40 per day. If you do that every day, you can better your speed, and plus getting in the weight room, you can better your strength. You just gotta get up there.
I think we're finding out now that
Just gotta get up there.
I think we're finding out now that maybe in the past some kids were able to play who didn't really put the time in. I think maybe those days are gone a little bit. As we look back on our football season, Adam, we had a big letdown certainly after the big Walnut game. What has been the difference since the big Walnut game? The fact that we've now won 3 games in a row. What do you think that was the main cause of that?
Our goal, our team goal was to go 10-0 with the state champions, and of course after the Springfield, the 10-0 didn't happen, and then of course after Big Walnut, the loss of Big Walnut the week before West Jeff, that kind of got us down. But I think we came back that Monday after the Big Nut game, and we got the fire. We got the spark that we needed. And we carried that fire through these 3 weeks. And that's big motivation.
So it helped us get refocused on what we needed to do. As we go into this week's Jonathan Alder game, Adam, it's for the Buckeye Athletic Conference, which of course is goal number 1 for us, Dale. We want to make sure that we win that. And what are your feelings about this football game as we come into it? You were on the team as a sophomore when we won the CBL before. What are your feelings now, Adam, as your senior year, you're trying to really accomplish the same thing?
2 things. Focus. We've been in the weight room 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. This week, as a matter of fact, tonight before practice, we got a great lift in. We need to keep doing that, and we need to stay focused. We need to work hard in practice. Stay focused through school, home, practice, and then practice hard. West Jeff, the week of West Jeff, and the week of Springfield, both of those weeks, we stay focused and we work hard in practice. If I think we can keep doing that this week, we'll come out on top of it.
Adam, you've given us a great year. Our season's not over yet, and nothing counts other than Friday night. I know you know that. And we need a great effort out of you. I'm sure you'll give it to us, and I want to thank you for being with us today.
Coach, I'd like to ask Adam a question. What are your plans after school?
Hope to get to college. If it means going to a 2-year college and then transferring to for 2 more years, so be it. But I want to get to college.
All right.
That's the main goal.
Adam's not one of those kids that's just a reliable kid, and I'm sure he's going to be very successful in life. I've seen him grow up a lot in 2 years. It's been really neat to see.
Thanks for sharing your time with us and coming on the show this evening, Adam. Appreciate it.
Next young man's Cliff Williams.
All right.
And Cliff, it's kind of a funny story about Cliff. Dale, he played as a freshman, and last year as a sophomore, when football season began, Big Daddy, as we call him, he wasn't out there with us. He was, for whatever reason, decided he wasn't going to play football. And I can remember calling him over to the side just before practice one night. He came wandering out, and I just told him how much he was going to miss it if he wasn't there and how important he was to our program. And Cliff came that next day, and he's been really committed ever since. He's really a unique athlete in that we think he could probably be the best tight end in maybe in the Central District. But we have a great tight end right now in Jay Hoy, good blocking tight end. Cliff's got great athletic ability as far as being able to run out and catch the football and do some different things with him. But we asked him to play offensive tackle, and he has given us a remarkable year at offensive tackle. I guess the first question I would have for you, Cliff, is what are your feelings of the football season here so far?
I thought it's been great because we have so much senior leadership. Awesome, that's good. And our strength is really I don't know what our strength and our speed has been up there other than the past year, last year. But I guess we're coming along.
Our offensive line's really kind of bonded together. As you said, Carl had 300 and some yards last week. Carl didn't do that by himself, Cliff, and you've been a big part of that. I wonder, talk a little bit maybe about what Coach Emmett's tried to do with you guys on the offensive line to build you into a cohesive unit that works well together.
Yeah, we're pretty much, when we go out there, we're pretty much like a family out there. Go out for our guy behind us, and he's going to make us win, help us win and stuff, playoffs and champs and stuff like that. So I guess we when we're in individual practices, Coach just focuses on us being a family and sticking together and blocking for our guys.
What's it like as an offensive tackle, Cliff, to be able to block for, let's say, a guy like Carl Ray or somebody who you know has the capability of breaking the big play at any time? Does that give you any added incentive or anything, make you go a little bit harder?
Yeah, it does make me go a little harder. I know in the long run, I'm going to get recognized and he's going to get recognized and I can put a flow down for the team. I'm not like a selfish player or anything. I just play to win and hopefully it'll come back to me.
Plays to win, plays hard, Dale, I'll tell you that. Just switch on the other side of the ball, Cliff. I know you had the dream this year to be a linebacker.
Yeah.
And we stuck you down at defensive end. I mean, you've been a real force down there. If you had your choice, what position would you like to play and why?
If I might play defense, I'd play linebacker because I think it's like you have to be a little sturdy out there and be the man, I guess, out there in the field. And linebackers are just that. You play mean and I just don't think I do.
Cliff is, we call him a mini Lawrence Taylor because in our way of thinking, he moves a lot like him. Really difficult guy to handle one-on-one. A lot of times we put him over on the short side of the formation, whereas many times one-on-one with an offensive tackle has a real difficult time being able to handle Cliff. I guess final question, Cliff, is, you know, Adam talked a little bit about last year's team. You talked a little bit about last year's team, senior leadership. How do you see your role, Cliff? Not that this season's over now, but how do you see your role on this football team next year?
My role be like to pass on the knowledge that I took in to the other players who be playing next year, and let it flow to the other teams like the freshmen and see them doing what they do. Yeah.
This type of leadership, you think, Cliff, is leadership by example? Is that what you're trying to say?
By example.
Remember last year we tried to get you in the weight room all the time. You didn't really kind of bucked against that a little bit, didn't you? All young kids do, I think. You know, it's hard work. But I know that you're going to be right there in the middle of it this year for us, throwing those kids in. Giving us a great year, Cliff. Do you have any questions for Cliff?
I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment to make. Folks, this is a fine-looking junior, and we have plenty of juniors on this ball club that are really going to carry this ball club next year.
Cliff, and I don't want to put any pressure on Cliff, but I believe he has Division I football potential as well. He can run, he's big. Cliff, you're going to have to get in the weight room and eat those weights up this off season, and you can get yourself a free education, I believe that.
Just before we started taping, I was measuring hand size with Cliff, and I'm saying,
yes, sir.
This is a big junior here.
Yes, sir. He's not through growing, that's for sure.
Right. Thanks for joining us, Cliff. We really appreciate you sharing your time with us. And let's go to
Carl Ray. Carl King, most people have certainly heard of Carl. I don't know if they've really seen him, seen what he looks like. Carl is probably is the fastest person in Madison County right now. He was fourth in the state last year in the 100 meters. And the really unusual thing about Carl is up until the sixth game of last year, Dale, he was a wide receiver. We tried to get Carl to be a running back earlier in the year, and he didn't really want to do it. He told me, I don't think I want to run up inside it every year, every play. About the 6th week of the season, actually against West Jeff, we got some injury problems, and we had to make that move. And man, from that time on, he really began to understand how to run. He had a great off season, lifted really hard, and had a great track season, finished fourth in the state last year in the 400 meters. And only recently has begun, he had a sprained an ankle his first game, and only recently has begun to get himself back into condition. And I think the fact that he had 331 yards the other night is just evidence of what he can do. He had 207 the week before against Madison Plains, so we're talking about 538 yards in 2 weeks. That's a good season for some people.
production.
Carl Ray, what would you attribute your growth as a running back from six games into the season last year to really just 10 games later? What's helped you improve so much?
Mostly definitely the weights, being up in the weight room. Last year I put some weight on. A lot of times I get knocked backwards. This year I put on a lot of weight, some mass, some strength in my legs and the upper body. And when I hit somebody this year, my goal is just to drive right on the road, keep on going. So if I have to do more,
I used to go to the track meets last spring, and I remember going over to Ohio State and watching Carl run in that state track meet. My tongue was hanging out because the thing that I was seeing most about Carl is the guts that he was developing coming down that back stretch in that 400 meters. And there were times, nobody's ever run that race, they don't know how hard that is. And there were many times that he didn't quit. And I knew right then that he was becoming becoming a lot tougher than the Carl that I had known the year before. And Carl, I wonder if maybe you could speak to that a little bit, as how you think maybe your track has helped your development as a football player.
That's definitely helped, especially talking about the 400. Coming down that back stretch, it's just a killer. I mean, the pain, it's a great deal of pain. And a lot of times out in the football field, I get up after taking a few hits and I'm in the huddle, and I'm tired, bending over, and coach will call my number again. Oh, shoot, here I go again. But somehow I end up finding enough strength to get up and run another play, just keep on going.
That's because that pain, you have to be able to conquer that mentally. And something we've tried to impress in Carl all year long is we know that he's getting tired, but those other guys are getting tired of tackling him as well. And especially if we pop him into the secondary. Now we're talking about a defensive back probably 155, 160 pounds who's not used to tackling that much force consistently in a game. And we've watched all of our games this year. Carl has really begun to wear the defense down the more we progress. Carl, let's go to the other end of the ball, other side of the ball, because we know you've been doing a lot offensively, but you haven't played as much defensively. I wonder if maybe you can share a little bit what the problem's been there.
Well, mostly ever since I hurt my ankle, they've just been sitting me on defense so that I won't re-injure it. And it's been tough to go both ways when putting the constant pressure on my ankle. So just specifying on offense.
He's a real force on defense. We play him an outside linebacker, and the last few weeks we've been able to work him in there a little bit more. And you've played football yourself, Dale. There's nothing like speed. You get that speed on the outside, either offensively or defensively, and it's a real problem for people. That's the greatest thing that I think Carl gives our team defensively, a lot more speed on the outside, and really helps to contain the other team.
Carl, I'd like to ask you, what are your plans after you graduate this year?
Well, definitely I'd like to go into college, and I'd like to participate either track or football. I'm not real certain where I want to go, but I'd like to go to college.
Oh, I'm sure some coaches out
I'm
there.
sure they are too. He's right now just really in the beginning of the recruiting process, Dale. They don't pay much attention to kids during the football season and try to let them go. But Carl's I believe, going to have the opportunity to go run track if he wants to at a major university, and certainly be able to play football just because he is so daggone fast. And as we said before, Carl has well over a 3-point grade average, so he's going to be able to go any place he wants to go. And we just try to impress the kids over and over that education is what opens doors. It's not athletic ability. We've had football players come through London since I've been here who've had great athletic ability, but they haven't had the grades. And if the grades aren't there, the doors will not be open. So Carl, by getting his studies, has really given himself a great deal of opportunity that he's going to be able to pursue. And I look forward to being a part of Carl's life forever, just following him, because I know he's going to be very successful.
All right. Well, thank you much for being with us, Carl. We really appreciate you sharing our time. And let's go to
Aaron Roberts. Aaron is, man, he's Mr. Unselfish, this guy here. Because he's number 45. Those of you who go to football games, Aaron's a fullback number 45. And really our fullbacks are guard in the backfield for the most part. All we want him to do is lead Carl Ray King through the hole. And Aaron is developing into probably the best blocking fullback that I've ever coached. And those of you who've watched him run know he has a great deal of speed, quickness, and power inside too. And we probably don't let him run the ball maybe as much as we should. Good question coming off of that then, Aaron, is how do you handle the fact being in the backfield all the time and your buddy back there being the one who gets to carry the football? Does that wear on you after a while?
Well, it really doesn't. I know that I'm blocking for someone that's going to win us the ball game, and it doesn't bother me that much. It's no big deal to me. I just know that I'm contributing to winning the team. So.
Which you're trying to tell everybody, when you get your chance to get your hands on that football, you better make something happen, because you don't get it that many times in the game. Aaron, what do you see? You've developed so much as a blocking back in the last year. What do you think are some of the, not tricks, but some of the greatest assets that you would have to maybe tell people how to become a good blocking fullback?
Well, as coaches keep preaching, keep your head up. That's the biggest thing, and lift the weight room. That's about it. Because if you don't have strong legs or an upper body, then you're not going to block anybody. But legs are important. Just stay up in the weight room, lift as much as you can. Practice speed coming off the ball, quickness off the ball helps a lot too, so you can get the punch on the defensive play.
Is there a particular part of the defender's body that you're really aiming at? I'm speaking of technique in particular.
Well, when you're, let's say we're going to run a sweep or something like that, you want to look at their waist, because if you look at their head, they can always have a head fake and you'll miss your block. Focus on the waist and you'll always get your block. Try to drive your face mask right to it.
Aaron's also, 3 of the guys sitting there, with the exception of Cliff, all ran track. Our track program's kind of on a resurgence, but I think Aaron would tell you the importance of track played in his development as a football player as well. Finished, what were you in the shot, Aaron? What place did you finish in the league last year?
I finished fifth and
Fifth in the district as a sophomore throwing the shot put. So Aaron has a great deal of potential. He's a man. He's another good student, hardworking young man. I think he has potential to be able to play football after high school as well. Aaron, final question for you. I guess I'm going to ask the same question I asked Cliff. As a junior coming back, really a two-year starter. Next year will have started as a sophomore and a junior on both sides of the ball. What do you see your role as far as leadership is concerned for next year's football team?
well, my major role is to get kids up in the weight room, carry a positive attitude down through the classes. I know 2 years ago we had some good ball players, Kenny Sims and Seth Yeager, and they were good ball players. They had good leadership qualities, and I'd just like to be able to carry that to the class below me. I'd like to encourage kids to get in the weight room, because that's what it's all at. And just to do what coaches ask and what other people ask of you.
Well, he does that too, Dale. I tell you, he's there every time. He doesn't talk about it. He gets in there and does it. And, you know, I think that anybody who's watching by TV tonight, you can look at these four guys, see why we're successful. You know, we get so caught up into what coach is doing what and how good a coach this guy is. And I'm telling you, there's not a coach in America that can win without good football players. And we are so blessed here at London High School with outstanding athletes and outstanding students and just great individuals. And it makes our job as coaches so much easier. Our job is to organize them and turn them loose. And that's what we've been able to do.
All right, well, there's a lot of people that are really excited about the rest of this year and next year, and the crop that you have is coming up as sophomores and freshmen and eighth graders. It's real exciting, folks. I'm excited. Get out there. Let's get out there and support the London Red Raiders. Right now, we have a section of the show that's called Ask the Coach. And this week, I received about 20 questions. So obviously, we don't have the time here to ask all of the questions. So I picked out a few of them, and I have about 6 questions for the coach. And I also have some comments. There were some real good comments made. So this is more so than just an ask a question section. We're also going to have some comments.
Great.
And the first question for the coach this evening is, and this is from Diane H. She's from here in London. Her question is, when London has a big lead in the first half or early in the second half, why don't the second string players get more playing time?
Great question. You know, I had a problem Friday night with a lot of our number one players, Dale, who have worked since last August, really, certainly all winter and all summer this year to be able to play football. And it's kind of unfortunate to think that we have such a good football team that we get ahead early in the game, but those guys have a right to play. And I think that's our first consideration, is to make sure that the kids who put the work in get the opportunity to play. Our second teamers and our third teamers, everybody loves to see them play, but they have a game to play on Saturday morning. And that's the game for the most part that they work towards to be able to accomplish some of the things that they want to accomplish. We try never to run the score up on anybody, but at the same time, I've got to let Carl King play. I've got to let John Johnson play. They've worked hard to be able to do what they want to do. And even the other night, I know that some of those guys are disappointed that they had to come out of the football game at the end of the third quarter. I've been on both sides of it. I understand that. But I want our kids to be rewarded for their efforts. Our goal is certainly to play as many kids as we can, but to be able to, number one, I think, to reward the efforts of those kids who put everything they have into our program.
Okay. I hope that answered your question, Diane. Next, we have a question from a gentleman by the name of Mike C. I don't know if he's actually here from London or if he lives out in the country near Madison Plains, but he's a Madison Plains alumnus.
Okay.
Okay? And his question, and you have touched on it several times already this evening, Coach, his question is, why did we run the score up on Madison Plains?
I don't know if we think that we did. I'm trying to think back to last week's football game. I don't feel that we did. I think that anytime that you're on the other end of the score, that you think that it's happening to you, Dale. If we were to go back and look at that, I don't believe that we scored much past about the 6 or 7 minute point in the fourth quarter. Something that people find hard to understand is it kind of goes back to what we just talked about with that previous question. At the end of that football game, Madison Plains still have their #1 football team out on the football field. We have our #2s out there. And I don't understand why. I don't want to run up the score, but I think our #1 kids deserve the opportunity to be able to play. And once we put those kids out on the football field, we want to give them the opportunity to do the best they can. I believe our last touchdown was scored at Madison Plains was scored by our #2. That game it's been 2 weeks ago, so it's not like fresh in my mind, but I'm trying to remember who it was that scored that last touchdown. I'm sure it was not one of our #1 players. We heard the same thing against West Jefferson when we beat them 39-7, whatever. People thought we were running the score up, and in my mind, we were just playing football to the end. Running the score up, in my mind, Dale's calling timeouts and passing and doing all this kind of stuff when you try down late in the game when you don't really need it. And I don't really feel that we did that.
Okay. Hope that answers your question, Mike. Okay, the next question. This lady tracked me down at the game. She has 2 questions for tonight. This was at a freshman ball game last week against Bexley, I believe. And same lady, Diane H. She has another question here, Coach. Why doesn't London have game films shown to parents after a game?
Oh man, that's great. And what was her name?
Diane H.
Diane
Hampton, actually.
I tell you, Diane, talk to my wife. You would not believe the number of hours that I put in as football coach. And if I went home and told my wife that now on Tuesday nights I was going to go out and show films to our fans, my wife would be a little bit upset because we have so little time together as it is with my family. I have 3 kids, and I love my kids, and I love spending time with them. But we're doing this show right here tonight on Monday night. It's 7 o'clock, and my family, of course, is home. Tuesday night would be available. Wednesday, I'm a family man, church man. I go to church on Wednesday night. Thursday night, we are late already with our football team. We have pregame meals, and we have a little ceremony that we go through every Thursday night. Friday night's the game. We'll kind of run out of time to be able to do it, Dale. I think it would be a great idea to be able to sit down and show the fans exactly what's going on. The problem I've had up at this point is being able to find time to be able to do it. I'd love to, but there's only so many hours in a day, only so many days in a week, and I love my wife and my kids.
All right. Well, hope that answers your question, Diane. Thank you very much for your question. The next question is from, he didn't want to give his name, actually, but Maine Stat Man. If London makes the playoffs, will you shave your head bald?
Oh, that's kind of a funny story because 2 years ago, when we were trying to get the kids into the weight room, I told them at one meeting we had, the first night we get 20 guys into the weight room, I'm going to shave my head. I never had to do it, Neil. They never got 20 of them there. And now all of a sudden, this whole idea's caught on fire, and kids are there doing what they want to do, and now they want the old coach to get his head shaved. I get a flat top every summer, and I kind of say that's my part of it. I really feel that people don't understand that as head football coach, there are a lot of other obligations that I have to do, and although it would be neat for my football team to be able to go off my head shaved, if I have to go speak to a civic group or I have to go speak to a church group or something like that, and my head shaved, sometimes it gives a different impression of me than what I would like them to be. And I guess maybe it's the old, not the vanity raising this ugly head so much as I just think that I respect my position as head football coach at London High School too much to do that, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I think I'm too pretty with long hair, but rather my position dictates the fact that I'm not going to cut my head.
All right, thanks for your question, Maine Stat Man. Okay, we have a couple of comments, and one of the comments is from a lady by the name of Cheryl Noble. She says she has a couple of sons playing football here in London. I think we have one of her sons here this evening.
Sure do, right.
Adam. Her comment is, the team seems to be very close-knit and unified, whereas in years past there was infighting amongst the players. Now apparently she's been watching London football for a long time.
Well, she's been watching it for quite a while, certainly as long as Adam's been in school. Any successful organization is built on love and built on trust. And I would think that 2 years ago we had a great environment on our football team. Last year we didn't, and I don't think there was a whole lot of trust. I'm not sure there was a whole lot of love. And what has to happen, Dale, when you're down there in that 4th and 1 situation, you have got to not only want to get that first down for you, you have to want to get it for the guy beside you. You have to all be sharing in this common goal. And I really think that that's been the difference in our football team. Those kids feel that way. And that's something that I think that we as coaches have done a good job of. We as coaches, we love each other. And I think the kids see that we do, and it's just been a good family atmosphere. And somewhere down the road, when this football season's over, I'm going to really, really miss this group of kids because they've been like I said last week, we haven't had one problem with them. They've been a great group to coach.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments, Cheryl. Appreciate it. Keep coming to the games.
That's
I know
right.
you will. The next comment is from a gentleman. And for our next comment, Coach, this is from a gentleman by the name of D. Erie, Dennis Erie, I believe his name is, right here from London. And his comment is, the running of the program from the bottom to the top is bearing quality play right now. And he thinks that Mr. Cunningham, Richard Cunningham, the 8th grade coach, is the best man at that position right now at the 8th grade level for teaching these young boys the fundamentals, so that when they get to you, I see a couple other coaches maybe, but the basics is where they really get
If there's one time that I think the good Lord was watching over me, Dale, it was certainly when I asked Richard Cunningham to be our junior high coach. When I first came 4 years ago, he was the freshman, one of the freshman football coaches, and I asked him to be in charge of the junior high. And actually, and the way a lot of people look at it, that was a demotion. But I tried to impress upon him the importance that our junior high program played in the overall aspect. And man, I don't think there's any doubt that Richard's played a great role, and he does a great job down there. At one point, they'd won 18 consecutive football games at the 8th grade, and they pass kids along to us that are very versed in the fundamentals. I think I'd also be wrong if I didn't mention the effect of our LABFL, our Biddy Football League, that Bill Blazer and some other men here in town have organized and have run for us now for, I believe, about 6 or 7 years, and that's really paying great dividends as well, because now when Richard Cunningham gets them in the junior high, they've already been exposed somewhat to football, and Richard can go ahead and be able to refine it a bit more than that, pass it up to Ron Gibson, and it gets refined even more. By the time we get them at the sophomore year in high school, basically the fundamentals are pretty well taught, and now we can get down to teaching our basic system and how we want things done. And I think, as we've spoken about before, earlier, if you just look down through the program, we are really getting some consistency across the board now. And I don't take any of the credit for that, Dale. I just tried to get good people, and I think that's that's the way any business is successful, is the type of people that you have working for them. And certainly Richard Cunningham and John Licklider and Tom Woodford and Doug Huff and Rob Conley at the middle school, and then Ron Gibson and Scott McKinney, and all the way up to our varsity assistants. They all are the reason we're as successful as we are.
Okay, thank you very much for your comment, Mr. Erie. And on that note, Coach, I would like to say that we would like to get some of those coaches on, maybe next week, or the week after or something, you know, Ron Gibson and Richard Cunningham and some of your assistants right there on the varsity.
There's only so much time for the show. That's really been the problem. And even though you see my ugly mug on here all the time, my idea is really to try to promote our kids. So we try to get as many kids on as we can. But also, I agree with you. Last year we had the opportunity to have Richard on and talk about his season, and Ron Gibson, and certainly that's something we're going to try to do down the road.
Okay.
And also get Norm Emmets, Mark Byard, Mark Collier, and Mike Wilson, and some of the other coaches on, and let people see them and see what great, outstanding role models they are for our kids, because I really believe that that's where it is, Dale. You can talk all you want to about what type of way you should live your life and how you should treat people, and until you put those words into action, they don't mean anything. And I really believe that our kids have seen that our coaches are men of integrity and do what they say, and it's had a great deal of effect upon the kids.
Okay. I want to thank you all for your questions and your comments, and that concludes our segment now of Ask the Coach, and with the new segment comments. And if you see me at any of the games that are left, junior varsity, freshman, 8th grade, come up to me. By all means, give me a question, okay, to ask the coach. We just have a couple of more shows left, so you don't have a lot of time. And just get with me and give me the question. I'll be glad to ask them to the coach right here on the show.
I believe our freshmen are home this Thursday night. I believe it's a home game with Jonathan Alder. And certainly some people can see there, although I've watched you in the stands, Dale. You work the stands pretty good trying to find some of those questions, too. So if they don't get their question asked, it's not your fault.
Well, thank you much, Coach. And, folks, I will walk up to you and ask you for a question. Right now, let's preview the Jonathan Alder game. Let's talk about it a little bit before we progress to the blackboard.
Okay.
And earlier today, I had an opportunity to watch some of the films of Jonathan Alder against Madison Plains. Jonathan Alder looks big.
They are big. Yes,
They have
sure
a good-sized ball club, and I can see why they are, what, 7-1?
Well, they've lost twice. So I believe
Okay,
they're
so they're
6-2.
6-2.
Same record that we have at this point.
Okay.
They've, in my mind, been one of the most surprising teams in the Central District, not only in our league. I knew that they had a good offensive line coming back, but we weren't really sure what they were going to have in the way of skilled people. Quarterback, we knew Mike Walter, the quarterback, was back. But we weren't really sure about what they would have in the way of running backs. They've been able to find a couple real decent ones, and I believe it's Jason Walker and then, out of Billy Keaton. Couldn't think of the name there for a while. Two really solid little football players in their backfield. And that big offensive line has done a great job of getting movement off the line of scrimmage and creating seams for those kids to run into. And I think that also something that's made them very, very effective is that their front interior four defensively is very sound. Got some big bodies in there, some kids that can play. And again, I was surprised, Dale, because I just didn't think that they were going to be quite as good as they are. But their record certainly speaks for itself. They not only did they won 6 football games, but they beat good football teams like Licking Valley, Lakewood. Earlier in the year, they believe beat what turned out to be a pretty good Mechanicsburg football team. So it's not a fluke. And the other night they played West Jefferson just about as tough as they could. In fact, if they hadn't turned the ball over so many times, they probably would have beaten West Jefferson. It was just two really evenly matched teams. So we know that Friday night, going into that game, that we certainly have our work cut out for us. I think something that I noticed more than anything about the Johnstown Alder team this year is that they seem to be a lot more enthusiastic. And a new coach a lot of times can do that. And I don't think that's any reflection on the man who was the coach last year. And I didn't mean that in any way, because I think he did a good job too. A lot of times a new guy can come in, a new young guy. I know Coach Jenny's really young and enthusiastic, and enthusiasm is contagious, Dale. And I think that that's evident on their football team. Those kids are enjoying themselves. They appear to be enjoy playing for Coach Jenny. And I think the success they're having is a direct result of all that. So it's going to be a real battle for us. It's for the BAC championship. Our kids don't take that lightly. And we know that Jonathan Alder is going to be worked into a wild frenzy, ready to play. And I can promise the Red Raiders will be at the same frame of mind.
Okay. Folks, let's get to that game Friday night.
That's at
this
Jonathan
coming
Alder.
Friday night, October the 30th, at Jonathan Alder. Let's get there. Let's root these Red Raiders on to victory, and let's try to get them into the playoffs.
That's
okay.
Something we try not to talk a whole lot about our kids,
right,
Dale, but I believe we have a very realistic opportunity to make the playoffs, as does Jonathan Alder if they were to beat us. But as we look down there, I happened to notice in tonight's paper that Dean Fox had written that a couple teams need to get beat, and one of the teams he mentioned was Hamilton-Baden. Hamilton-Baden plays Cincinnati LaSalle, who right now is 3rd in Division I, large school. LaSalle is certainly very capable of beating Hamilton-Baden. And then the other one that would have to get beat for us to get in is Mason, but they play Little Miami, who is right now number 2 in our region. So the possibilities are there. And we try not to get focused too much on that, but rather tell our kids, we've got to take care of Jonathan Alder, win the Buckeye Athletic Conference, take care of Grandview next week, and then we'll add up the points at the end of the year. But it certainly looks better for us now than it did, let's say, a month ago.
Okay. Let's go up to the blackboard. Let's see a little bit about what Jonathan Alder does and what we're going to try to do.
Jonathan Alder, offensively, when they have the ball, they're going to run out of what we call a wing T set. And the real important part of the wing T is that it creates a great deal of misdirection. Now, misdirection meaning start one way and come back another way. And they'll end up with a quarterback, a fullback, and a halfback. Now, a lot of times, they'll take this halfback and they'll put him over here. So instead of it appearing there, he would be in this slot over here. The idea behind the wing T is a lot of what we call cross-buck action, where one back will fake one direction, the other back comes the other direction, with both guards pulling and leading the play. It makes it very difficult for your interior people, your linebackers in particular, to be able to follow all of this crossing action in the backfield and try to figure out just who has the football. What Jonathan Alder so far has proven to be very successful with, Dale, is what we call a buck sweep, is to fake this guy up in here and bring this guy wide with 2 guards leading the way for him. And he's been able to get outside and cause a lot of problems. In addition to that, the quarterback then will fake that play, get this crossing action. The quarterback will fake, and then what we call bootleg, keep the ball around the end, drag the tight end, drag on some type of pattern the wing back, and that causes a lot of problems in the secondary. It's going to be very important for our outside linebackers to be able to contain and have real solid football games for us. If we allow their quarterback, Mike Walter, to get to the outside of us, we're going to be in for, I think, a long night offensively. But this is some of our better football players. And so we're putting a lot of emphasis on what they have to do, and we feel that they can do that. We also feel that our inside linebackers, Aaron Roberts, one of them was here tonight, and Scott Sims and Jeff Mathewson have really improved their play interiorly as well. We knew all year long that Matt Dolby, Jay Hoy, Clay Miller, and Cliff Williams were playing pretty solid football. But as our linebackers needed to progress and come along, we really believe they've begun to do that. As far as defensively, Dale, they're real basic offensively. I mean, they're not going to trick you a whole lot. They're going to, what a lot of people call smash mouth football, where they're going to try to run it right at you. And we have to be prepared for that. And I think that we can play physical football with anybody on our schedule. Certainly Jonathan or anyone else. You haven't noticed, I just read thing on people. I don't think I'm some type of hippie. This is it's kind of anti-drug thing that's going on in the school this week, and I make sure I went ahead and wore that.
All right.
I'm not a hippie. Never was. Defensively, then, they're going to play what we call a 4-4. And I know last week we talked about the same defense we played being a 4-4 or 6-2. They have two really big, what we call hogs, two real big football players that they have playing down in here. One is about 240 pounds, the other is about 235. Their ends, then, they stand their ends up in a 4-4 alignment out here. We would call them linebackers or ends. They go about 170 pounds, so not as big as what some ends you might see. Their inside linebackers are both very active football players. The idea behind their defense is they want these two guys here to raise so much havoc in there that you're going to have to double team them. When you have to double team these two guys, then that frees the linebackers to be able to attack. As far as what our attack is going to be, I can't say too much because certainly Jonathan Order might be able to pick this show up. But I think our attack's basically going to be the same type of stuff we try to do all year. When you get to this point in the season, week number 8, number 9 in the season, there are no tricks, Dale. And what we've done all year, we're going to continue to do. And what Jonathan Order has done all year, they're going to continue to do. Just because at this point we're both good football teams and we'll line it up and take our chances doing the same stuff we've done, which would be, of course, trying to get Carl King off tackle, Carl King wide, passing with John Johnson coming off out to Dwight Jones. And we have a few other tricks that we have planned for them, but we're real confident what our attack's going to be. It'll come down, as it always does, to who executes their game plan the best.
Okay, let's talk about their kicking game.
Okay?
Okay. Their place kicker, is he good? Can he kick long, or is he pretty accurate, or what?
He's a good kicker, very good kicker, and I'm trying to think of his name, but don't have it in front of me. From a kickoff standpoint, last week we had Dwight Jones that returned one 94 yards for a touchdown, as I said. I've noticed all year long, in the films that we have anyway, on their kickoff return team, kickoff team, I know if you people don't understand football, these actually don't make any sense to you. This is the kicker, so here would be the football. They're going to kick it down the field to us. The idea is to kick the ball deep, try to get them down in the hole as deep as you can. Well, Jonathan Order has taken a little bit different approach. They are not the capability to kick it very deep. But they've gone more with what we call squib kick, where they're going to try to kick the ball down here 15, 20, 25 yards, let the ball bounce around so that you can get no organized kickoff return. And as a result, they feel that they may give you the ball about the 30-yard line. Sometimes, we used to do this 2 years ago, we squib kicked it every time. Sometimes it ends up in a turnover because the ball is just so hard to get a hold of. Up to this point, we have not seen them kick the ball very deep, but they have certainly have the capability to be able to do it. Their punters also, maybe one of the two best punters we've played against all year. Really, they put the ball deep, long, and high. So if we have their punter on the field a lot, Dale, that means that we're doing something right, that they have to be giving the ball up to us. And we'll work hard on our punt return and some of those other things and be prepared to do whatever they give us.
Okay. Let's talk about playing conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Oswald, this is an away game. Okay. And obviously, is there much of a home field factor here involved with a big game of this type?
Normally no, but this may sound funny, it may sound like an excuse. Jonathan Order has what I consider to be one of the more poorly lit football fields that we play on. Their lighting, for whatever reason, is just not as good. And their football uniforms are black. And that combination of a poorly lit football field and black uniforms a lot of times makes it very difficult to follow the football. And that may sound like an excuse, but I really believe that there is something to that idea. So I think that the only advantage is that they're used maybe to playing on their football field, which is not as well lit as what ours is. And I don't know if that will affect our passing game or not. It might take a little bit more concentration on the part of our kids to be able to lift the ball in and do some of the things that we try to do offensively. But as far as the atmosphere, I expect it to be a great atmosphere. There's going to be a lot of fans there because both teams certainly have a lot on the line. And I really think that once you get playing that game, you don't care about the lights and all that other kind of stuff. And boy, we sure are looking forward to it.
Okay, Coach, I'll be at the game.
So what, man?
Good luck. I know you will. All right, I hope so. I hope you're there. All right. Folks, we want to thank you for being with us this evening. For the staff here at GPM facility, and for Coach Daubenmire and the ball players that were here, we want to thank you for being with us. I'm Dale McNeil. Thank you, and good night.
Go ahead.